Everyone. My name is Asad Nadeem and my registration ID is 12001263. I'm going to further proceed with my part of presentation, that is exploitation of workers and its impact on modern slavery. Now, what is modern slavery? Modern slavery is taking an unfair advantage of any labor who are bound in under a certain fraudulent contracts. Now, there are some symbols of modern slavery under fraudulent contracts. First one is controlled movement, like those individuals who are victims of modern slavery due to exploitation, kept under forceful procedures in place to avoid escape. For instance, refusing to giving back victim's passport or private documents so they cannot quit the job. Over time, in order to increase little increment in the wages of laborers, the laborers does baseless hours of work without any sort of break. Payment system. The payments are made in terms of cash, rather banking system or a structured documented system with details that how many hours of labor worked and deduction of taxes. Lastly, the accommodation conditions. Laborers may have to live in poor accommodating environment with bunch of labor force on a workplace site offered by the company. These sites or accommodation conditions are always poor in condition. Now, there are two reasons of this modern slavery. Number one is poverty. Number two is financial issues. But the COVID-19 has also played a dramatical role in this modern slavery. In COVID-19, the workforce which have involved many labor hours to vulnerable situation and victims of being exploitation. Now, the impact of COVID-19 on modern slavery. The shutdown of numerous industries throughout the globe in this COVID-19 pandemic has grown the ratio of unemployment in the world, driving those individuals in the most vulnerable condition and further threat of being exploited. According to International Labour Organization, they stated in their report that around 1.6 billion workforce under grey economy has suffered. Now, what is grey economy? Those economy which are unmonitored and untaxed by any form of government. Secondly, the industries such as manufacturing, hotel, restaurants, services has declined their average by 60% throughout the world, which have been impacting the mass laborers with less or no earnings. This unemployment growth have harmful outcome on those people who are suffering at lower poverty line, and unfair advantage are taken by the exploiters in this desperate circumstances, because these laborers feel that they do not have any choice but to carry this job with below par working conditions. And these helpless people, as I mentioned in my previous slide, that they have trapped themselves into the burden of debts. Exploitation of workers in developing countries during COVID-19 crisis. Like in South Asian countries, India, most of the laborers are getting unemployed in small amount of money they possessed before various industries went shut down. This is the growing nervousness of COVID-19 impacts on modern slavery throughout the globe, especially South Asian countries like India, Pakistan, Iran, Indonesia, Afghanistan, and many more. Like, take example of India. In India, children are taken into factories for work rather than to school, because the schools are getting shut down in this pandemic. Growing issues of child labor, which is already one of the main issues around the globe. Now, there is a study where during the lockdown, a group of social organization called Bachpan Bachao Andolan in India rescued overall 591 children all around the various states of India. Now, as you can see that what is the impact of this COVID-19 in this crisis on child labor as well. Like in Bangladesh, More than 100 of factories went shut down and reduced their decline, and they faced the decline in their average income because the retail markets and stores are also facing decline in their sales revenue, which leads to huge loss to these factories as well. And about 4 million individuals or workers who are employed by these factories are now at the point of losing their jobs, either or being exploited, either a victim of being exploited, such as taking unfair advantage from workers in this pandemic in order to reduce the cost by these factories to overcome the issues of the income. In Pakistan, overall 75% labor force, around 40% of these individuals are farmers who work in agriculture sector, while rest of them work in servicing sector, manufacturing industry, and etc. Just a 1 week ahead of International Labor Day in Karachi, where huge amount of charged workers, including females, grouped outside a garment factory in order to record their protest against imposed layoff. They actually came to collect their salaries and wages for their work. They didn't mean to protest. But in reply, they were informed that factory are not in a state to give you the salary or to get your salaries, to get your services anymore. Because the factory are facing financial crisis in this COVID-19, which are imposed by the government of Pakistan in order to overcome the transmission of coronavirus. In Indonesia, in these current circumstances of COVID-19, the International Labour Organization states that over 11 million of children are in danger of exploitation as child labor, mainly in underdeveloped areas of Indonesia. Now, exploitation of migrant workers. Migrant workers are in danger to face an extra bunch of difficulties because they often work in gray economy, as I mentioned, such economy which are unmonitored or untaxed by any form of government. Like they are not eligible to seek any help from state. For instance, if they get sick, they are not eligible to get help from state. They are not in position to return home in these closed borders without any work. Now, there's a COVID-19 challenge to illegal migrant workers. Like illegal migrant workers were already facing everyday exploitation such as awful working conditions. On other hand, danger of COVID-19 created new disturbing healthcare challenge such as fear of being tested positive by the coronavirus. If they get tested positive, they will be reported to immigration department. They might lose their job or they may be deported to their country. Now, the main issue is that illegal migrant workers have no other alternative but to accept the work under exploitative working conditions, with not having choice of complaint against exploitation, to seek help because they are already living illegally and bound to remain silent. Now, international students in wage theft in Australia. Growing cases of exploitation among workers during COVID-19. The balance of power has been in favor of employers as compared to employees. Due to this, workers are bound to take low-paying wages. A study of 5,000 international students was discovered that the majority of these students are suffering serious issues of wage theft. From the quantity of every 4 students, one of them are earning 12 per hour, below 12 per hour, which is the minimum 50% lower casual minimum wage rate per hour. Thank you.